Hello everybody and welcome back to 428 Shibuya Scramble. Let's just get back into it. I have not stopped playing this game since I started today. I want to see this through to the end. We're at a standstill for everything. So now it's time to see how Stanley's doing. The only character that has left to do anything thus far. Tateno's story has come to an end, and Achi and Kano both are at to be continues. They're just at a complete standstill. Please don't let me be too late, he muttered to himself as he waited for the call to connect. Achi was quick to pick up. Mr. Stanley? What's going on? How did the negotiations go? The detective caught Alphard, Achi replied happily. He got him to give up the password, and I think he's calling the folks at the lab. Does this mean the case is closed then? No, not yet. Right now I need you to do exactly as I tell you. There was a pause before Achi responded. Why? What's going on? If you want to save Hitomi, then shut up and listen, Stanley snapped. All right. Tell me what to do. First, you need to power down Hitomi's cell phone. Turn off her phone? What for? I'm pretty sure that there's a bomb somewhere near your location. Stanley tried to keep his voice as calm and steady as possible. A bomb? Achi's voice squeaked into falsetto. The guy that Kano just apprehended is a decoy. The real Alphard is planning to eliminate Hitomi and the false Alphard at the same time. Stanley didn't have the time to explain that Kanan was Alphard. Perhaps it would only confuse the matter all the more at this point. Listen, first, turn off the cell phone. Turn off that cell phone. Then go and look for the bomb. Okay, got it. Achi hung up. Hopefully the team at the Scramble would be able to pull through. Now, Stanley needed to focus on capturing Alphard. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel. His emotions were coming on far too strongly for him to keep them in check. In the back of his mind, Stanley thought about the last he'd ever seen of Frank. There had been nothing left of his brother but a bloodied hand reaching out from beneath the rubble. Even since that day, since that very moment, Jack Stanley had sworn vengeance upon Alphard. He would never forget the rage he'd felt at having what was left of his family taken from him. Hey, Jack. Once it's all tidied up, I'm gonna need a drink. Let's you and me have a beer together. Sure, you got it. Stanley sprang into action, leading away the throng of panicking civilians. But all the while, he couldn't help but worry about Frank. We've got almost 30 minutes left. He'll be fine. Backup will definitely be here in time. He did his utmost to reassure himself, but still the doubts gnawed. When the bomb squad descended upon the area, clad in their protective gear, Stanley shot a look at his watch. Explosive ordnance disposal suits, also commonly called bomb suits or blast suits, worn during bomb disposal operations to protect the wearer from the from the shock of a blast, or from any hurled fragments or any explosion may produce. Such a suit is, however, wholly inadequate to protect the wearer from a large, powerful explosive, such as a several hundred grams of C4 detonated at close range. He felt a surge of relief. Only about 15 minutes had passed. There was still plenty of time for them to deactivate the bomb with their liquid nitrogen. Thank God. Frank's going to be all right. But he got no chance to relish that thought. There was an ear-splitting boom as a painful shockwave shook the area. Stanley whirled back around, staring in horror at the place that his brother had been. Nothing remained but a mound of rubble. A later investigation would reveal that the timer of the bomb's exterior had been a mere ruse. The explosive was never linked to a timer at all. Instead, it had been detonated via remote control. When electronic detonators capable of triggering an explosion with surgical current were invented, they quickly rendered old-style fuses obsolete. In the modern day, many terrorists use small electronics such as a cellular phones, and keyless entry remotes for cars as explosive triggers. Alphard had deceived them, using a visible timer to lure them into a false sense of security. Stanley had managed to save many lives that day, to be sure, but it had come at the cost of his own brother's life. Had he really made the best decisions he could have made? He was still asking himself the same question, over and over, even now. But no matter how much he blamed himself, it wouldn't bring Frank back. There was one thing he could still do for his brother. It was getting revenge on Alphard with his own hands. Stanley had been in constant pursuit of Alphard ever since. He would stoop to any level for information without remorse. His opponent was someone who would do anything at all to achieve a goal. It only made sense for him to do the same. At some point, he'd stopped even hesitating to get his own hands dirty. He would charge headlong into any danger if he sensed Alphard's presence. Even his own life was a price he was willing to pay in the name of vengeance. He could never hope to latch his jaw onto his quarry's throat if he behaved like prey himself. He must be the greater predator. He would cast aside his humanity, would become a blood-stained beast if that improved his chances at the hunt. For the hunt was all that mattered. Pursuit of Alphard had become his only purpose. So it had been for the past 2 years. Now those years flashed through Stanley's mind in the blink of an eye. As he came back into the moment, he marveled at his own curiosity, and at the depths of the wound he'd suffered. If I do get my revenge, what would Frank think? When Stanley pictured his younger brother, it wasn't with a smile on his face. The realization gave him pause. In the end, killing Alphard wouldn't bring his brother back. That went without saying. But although he could see now that revenge was an absurd goal, his heart still churned deep and dark with resentment. Finally, the Okoshi Pharmaceutical Laboratory came into view. There were 2 people standing outside the front gate. It was Tateno and the girl who had pretended to be Kanan. Each had a gun drawn on the other. Somehow Stanley had made it in time. He pulled his car up alongside them and reached down into the gun sleeve concealed inside his seat. He pulled out a .44 caliber Desert Eagle, one of the most powerful semi-automatic handguns in the world. Semi-automatic handgun designed by Minnesota-based Magnum Research Incorporated and manufactured by Israeli Weapon Industries. There are various models chambered for different rounds. The largest, the .5 Action Express .5 AE, is exceptionally powerful by semi-automatic handgun standards. His orders were to apprehend Alphard. The smaller Glock in his shoulder holster might be better suited to that end. Even so, he opted for the Desert Eagle. Getting out of the car, he started pacing towards the young woman. Stanley. Tateno glanced over at him, his face pale. Stanley gave a silent nod in reply. He could see the hint of a smile on the girl's face, probably a smile of overconfidence. Well, her brazenness would get her no further. I got in touch with the others, Stanley said. Told them to turn off Hitomi Osawa's cell phone. He could see her eyes react. I imagine by now they've also managed to deal with the bomb you planted on your decoy. The young woman remained silent. And of course, they've managed to bypass the lock inside the lab. You know what this means. Your little plan has failed. Completely. Stanley could see the girl's stare sharpen. He chased Alphard all around the world, only to arrive here, at last, in this little island nation. It had been a long, long journey, and he'd spent a long time suffering. Now both the journey and the suffering would be over. We meet at last. Alphard. End of his story. And Oh. Everyone. Epilogue. Kanan's friend. It's orange like Teteno. Huh. She felt a hand firmly clutching her own as she hazily returned to consciousness. His hand. Whose is it? Father's? Maria's eyelids slowly drifted open. Maria, you're all right now. Her father was indeed beside her, holding her hand. A surprising warmth radiated from his slender, bony palm. Dad? She was lying on a sofa. She craned her neck to look around, still trying to process what was going on. There were several monitors set up around the room. Where are we? At my laboratory. You were infected with a virus. I've given you the antiviral. You don't have anything to worry about. Squeezed Maria's hand even more tightly. That hurts. Right, sorry. Osawa eased up the pressure on his daughter's hand, but he didn't let go entirely. This feels so strange, Maria muttered, staring up at the ceiling. Wonder why. What does? Can you hold my hand? I used to hold your hand like this when we'd go on walks together. When you were little. I doubt you remember that, though. Maria considered. It was true, she didn't have any clear memory of her father holding her hand like this. And yet the touch of her father's palm felt distantly familiar. Gently, she squeezed back. It's been a while, hasn't it? She said. I mean, me looking you in the eye while I'm talking to you. That's only because I didn't look you in the eye. Osawa hung his head. I'm so sorry, he said. Please forgive me. I never meant to hurt you like I did. Wait, hold on. Maria was taken aback. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean, hurt me? Back on that rainy day. Osawa told Maria about the day she'd run away from home. About how he'd known where she had gone, but hadn't gone to find her. About how he'd given in to his anger and struck her once she came back home. Then he'd finished. When he finished, he'd hung his head once more. I'm so sorry. I've been such a terrible father. Maria cracked an impish smile. Oh yeah, I guess that did happen. Osawa frowned. You know, she said. I'd totally forgotten about that. Until you mentioned it just now, I mean. No, I can't believe that, Osawa replied. The way I hurt you, He sounded so disappointed in himself. Dad, it's not like I can let myself dwell on each and every detail of my childhood. I mean, in the 19 or so years I've been alive, I've been hurt in lots of different ways. A child experienced so much more than what her parents knew. That was what growing up was all about. It was a happy thing, but also a little bit sad. Osawa was visibly grappling with his feelings. I see, he said. I guess you have gone through much pain. Well, yeah, but there have been more things that were fun and happy. I see. It's the sum of all those things that have made me who I am today. So please, don't worry so much about the past. I see. Dad? You keep saying I see. Stop it. Sorry. It's just... This is all so difficult to say. Osawa was trying and failing to hold back his tears. Maria wasn't quite sure what those tears were for, but she felt a prickle of embarrassment. Shyly, she looked away, and her eyes alighted on one of the monitors. The screen showed a view from outside the lab. Who are those people? She asked pointingly. Osawa looked, and his eyes widened in shock. 3 people with guns were facing off with one another. Maria recognized one of them. Tenno, the man with the cane. Who are those 2 pointing... Why are those 2 pointing guns at your friend? Osawa's voice was shaking. My friend? What do you mean? One you met when we went to the Middle East. You know, Anon. Osawa switched the monitor to show a different camera angle. A close-up of the young woman's face appeared on screen. Maria was at a loss for words. That certainly wasn't Kanan. It was the girl who'd come to tell Maria that Hitomi was going to be kidnapped. Kanan's friend. It had happened 3 days earlier. While Maria was on her way home from campus, a girl approached her, telling her she was a friend of Kanan. Kanan asked me to pass along the message, she said. Then she showed Maria a video recording. The video quality was quite poor and the voice indistinct. There's a terrorist who's after the antiviral agent your father is developing. Maria listened in shock as the message continued. The terrorist plan was already in motion, and Hitomi hadn't been infected with a killer virus. Your father used the antiviral to save Hitomi, but the terrorist planned on that. I'll spare you the details, but there's a way to extract the antiviral from Hitomi's blood. Stealing the drug from the laboratory directly is too problematic. The terrorist intends to get it directly from your sister. Hitomi is certain to be kidnapped sometime in the next few days, and so I have something to ask you. I'd like you to get kidnapped in her place. Since you're twins, it would be possible for you to trade places without the kidnappers realizing it. I gave the girl who's passing along this message a necklace outfitted with a small GPS beacon. Make sure you wear the necklace. Switch it on, and it'll allow you to keep tabs on your location. I promise I'll come and rescue you. Please, help me. This is the only way we can keep the antiviral and Hitomi safe. The video ended, and the girl handed Maria a necklace with an ornate pendant and showed her the hidden switch on the back. Kanan's coming to Japan? Maria asked. She's already here. She's ready to risk her life for this mission. Risk her life. Maria started uneasily. So this terrorist who's after the antiviral drug? Is it Alphard? The girl looked shocked. You know about Alphard? Kanan told me that taking down Alphard is her purpose in life, but Alphard has ties to the CIA, so it's hard for Kanan to get any good leads. That's true. Which reminds me, you should have this. The girl held out a photograph. This man is dangerous. Stay away from him. He's an ally of Alphard. Maria did her best to burn the man's image into her mind. All right, the girl said. I've passed along everything Kanan wanted me to tell you. What you do next is up to you. So wait, what the heck has been going on while I've been asleep? Osawa recoiled from the ferocity of her daughter's face. That Kanan girl thought of a way to save you. He went on to explain the plan to get the antiviral out of the lockdown laboratory. Once again, Maria stared at the monitor. As she eyed Kanan's friend, another memory from before she blacked out drifted to the surface. Suddenly, it dawned on Maria that this girl was planning. What this girl was planning. She's pretending to be Kanan in order to get into the lab, she said, scowling at the image on the monitor. Osawa looked at the screen and then at his daughter's face. Well then, who in the world is she? Maria already had the answer. There was no doubt about it. That girl was Alphard. The instant she realized this, she knew they were in danger. If Alphard managed to infiltrate the lab, there was no way she'd be satisfied with simply getting her hands on the antiviral. She sowed ruin everywhere she went. Something wrong? Osawa said uneasily. Maria, what is it? Maria's mind was racing. She spoke her thoughts out loud. She's going to kill you so the drug can't be recreated. No, that's not thorough enough. She's going to destroy this whole facility. But how? Vague possibilities tumbled through her mind, but she couldn't be sure what the terrorist might be planning. She gritted her teeth in frustration. Don't worry, Osawa said. I don't know who that girl is, but right now she's outside the lab. There's no way she can kill me, or plant a bomb in here, or anything. Yeah, I know. Maria gave a tiny nod, but something gnawed at the back of her mind. Make sure you wear the necklace. Hurriedly, Maria took hold of the necklace that hung around her neck. As soon as she did, she felt a chill run up her spine. She went back over the details of Alphard's plan as her father had explained it, and then finally she understood. got it. Osawa straightened up. You've got what? I need to get out there where those three are. Don't be absurd. I have to go. Osawa peered closely at his daughter's face. Words weren't going to stop her, and he realized that. His own face stiffened with determination. All right, but I'm going with you. I can't let you rush into danger all by yourself. Thank you, Dad. Maria tried to get up from the sofa, but she was struck by a wave of vertigo and her knees buckled. Are you all right? Osawa caught her by the arm. It's probably a side effect of the antiviral. You shouldn't push yourself too much. Maria looked up at her father's anxious face and shook her head. Don't worry. I'll be okay. Her body was weak with lethargy, her mind trapped in a disorienting haze. Every step was a monumental effort. But she clenched her jaw and forced herself onward, making her way down the laboratory hallway. A whirlwind of anger and sadness spurred her onward. Alphard was masquerading as Kanan. Cruel truth was all too clear. The terrorists would never have been able to get away with the deception if Kanan were still alive, which means that Kanan must be. Maria fought to hold back her tears. It was too early to cry just yet. That could wait until she had put a stop to Alphard's plan. Using her rage to suppress her sorrow, she shoved open the door in front of her. That isn't Kanan! Maria's voice exploded into the silence of the standoff. I doubt we're getting better testimony than that, Stanley said, his gun still at the ready. There's no talking your way out of things this time. The expression on Alphard's face didn't change. She stood still, a mannequin without a soul. What did you do to Kanan? Maria demanded, marching unsteadily toward the terrorist. Maria, stay back! Osawa exclaimed. She ignored him. Hey, don't get any closer, Tateno barked. He looked exhausted, on the verge of collapse. Answer me, Maria cried, still advancing. What happened to Kanan? Still Alphard said nothing. Stanley, too, began edging toward her. It doesn't matter what you ask, he said. She won't tell you anything. Bit by bit, he inched closer, going to try to take her down. Let me turn your question around, Alphard said abruptly. What do you think? Maria paused, confused. What do I think about what? What do you think happened to Kanan? Corners of her lips twisted up, shaping a mirthless smile. You killed her, didn't you? Maria's words came out as a whisper. What was that? I couldn't quite hear you. You killed Kanan, didn't you? This time Maria cried out with biting fury. Alphard snickered. She's provoking me, Maria thought, forcing herself to swallow her rage. She couldn't let herself get caught up in Alphard's game, or her anger would spill out of control. Why are you laughing? My force of will made her voice firm and steady. Maria made her voice firm and steady. Because I'm guessing you weren't expecting me to show up here? Alphard raised an eyebrow ever so slightly. This thing here. It's a bomb, isn't it? Maria held out the necklace. What? Stanley furrowed his brow. Of course. Even if we managed to catch you here, you'd still be able to destroy the lab. Still, the smile remained on Alphard's face. She seemed to enjoy watching the others figure out her intentions. But you can't trigger the bomb with me standing this close to you, can you? Maria locked eyes with Alphard. Unless you're prepared to sacrifice yourself. She stood like an image of bravery, while on the inside her apprehension threatened to tear her apart. She could feel her heart thudding so furiously that she thought it might explode. Cold sweat trickled down her spine. Only her rage at Kanan's murder kept her from backing down. Go ahead and blow yourself up if that's what you want, she said. But you'll die with nothing. Your death will mean nothing. But not mine. My death will avenge Kanan's. Silence fell outside the laboratory gates. Stanley and Toteno stood frozen, their guns still trained on Alphonse. Both men were ready to pull the trigger at the slightest provocation. Just how long had they been there, staring one another down? The passage of time seemed slow, seconds drawn into hours. Osawa swallowed audibly. Finally, Alphard tossed her gun onto the pavement and held out both hands in surrender. Stanley wasted no time, springing forward to secure her. He gave her a thorough pat-down from behind. He removed a small device that looked like a detonator from one of her pockets. "On your knees!" Alphard did as she was told. "Good. Now stand. Now, hands behind your head. Try anything funny and I will shoot." Without a word, Alphard placed her hands on the back of her head, fingers laced together. "What are you playing at?" Stanley growled disdainfully. "Finally realized that you can only push your luck so far?" She responded with a faint snicker. "It's not my policy to resist when things are hopeless." Her tone was detached, her intentions unreadable. "Good. That'll make this easier." Stanley kept the barrel of his gun pointed at Alphard's head. "This is for my brother." The words hung in his throat unspoken. A surge of emotion coursed through him. Just a tiny bit more pressure from his index finger and he could put a bullet right through Alphard's head. His long journey would finally reach its conclusion. But although he had wished for this moment more than anything, his finger did not move. If he pulled the trigger now, would that truly be the end? His mind reeled at the implication. Toteno watched Stanley closely, eventually letting out a firm, tiny sigh of relief. They were in this together, after all. Now they just needed to be careful not to let down their guard. He kept one eye on Alphard as he went to pick up the gun she discarded, but he was too late. The gun was gone. "This is for Kanan!" Maria had lunged forward, snatching up the gun. "Maria, no!" Osawa cried. "What are you thinking?" She ignored her father, taking aim at Alphard's forehead. "Kanan's dead. And you're going to pay." The smoldering rage she'd fought to hold back blazed up with renewed fury. "Maria," Stanley said calmly, "put down the gun." He had nothing but words to stop her. There was no telling what Alphard might do if he took his gun off her. "What will this accomplish?" he asked, keeping his tone as level as possible. Maria's face remained awash with anger. "Maria!" Her father pleaded. "Please don't do this!" Toteno took a step forward. "Go on, hand me the gun," he said. "Stay back!" Maria's arm trembled as she aimed the gun. Everyone stood frozen, not even daring to breathe. The slightest wrong move might bring disaster. The silence roared. "I don't care," Alphard sneered. "If you want to shoot, then shoot. You do want to avenge Kanan, don't you?" "Yes. Yes, I do." Maria tightened her grip on the gun. Memories of her friend drifted through her mind. To Maria, born into peace, meeting Kanan had been like touching a world beyond her own, a far more complicated world. Kanan had blood on her hands from the time she was a little girl, a walking contradiction of cruelty and childishness. And yet she had lived her life according to her own unshakable beliefs. Meeting her had made Maria think hard about her own identity. What did it mean to be Japanese? No, that wasn't the question. What did it mean to be Maria Osawa? That was the crux of it all. They had been able to find common ground despite differing ideals, because both possessed an unshakable sense of self. Maria made up her decision. Maria's anger dissipated like smoke in a sudden wind. The tension seeped from her body, and she carefully lowered the gun. "What's the matter?" Alphard smirked. Why won't you shoot? Her eyes blazed with contempt for Maria's naivete. No, I'm not being naive, Maria told herself. Do unto others as they have done to you. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. What does this reoccurring pattern of retribution really accomplish? It's just an endless cycle of hatred. That's why I'm not going to fight. Because I'm not like Kanana. Tears flooded from her eyes. I'm not like Kanan, but people who are different can still be friends. And I'm going to honor our friendship by not taking revenge. No matter what happens, I'm not going to hurt anyone, Maria said. Maybe that's not very realistic, but this is my fight, and I'll fight the way I choose. She wiped away her tears. For the first time, Maria felt that she understood Kanan. If she'd been able to see her just one more time, she would be able to speak her mind without fear. I could show Kanan the true me. Maybe then we would be friends for real. But that wasn't going to happen. Not anymore. Maria handed the gun to Tenno, then looked up at the nighttime sky. In the distance, she could faintly hear the sound of police sirens. Not one star could be seen in the sky over Shibuya. A black car of foreign make arrived at the laboratory and pulled up to the curb. Stanley's superior, Gordon, emerged from the back. A few of his men followed and promptly placed Alphard in cuffs. Well done, Gordon said. Stanley gave him a slight nod. I'll be taking Alphard back to headquarters. You can finish up here. Understood, sir. Gordon shoved Alphard into the back seat and slid in alongside her, and the car drove off. Who was that just now? Tenno asked Stanley. My boss. Sorry, but we'll be taking Alphard into custody. You will, huh? Tenno frowned, but decided not to press the point. He put a stop to Alphard's plan, and they had saved Maria's life. That was enough for him. Maybe it even began to atone for what he'd done to Hitomi. Kano, Suzune, Katone. Tenno pictured all of their faces. Perhaps in the end, he'd managed to become worthy of their respect. It's all over, Stanley spoke under his breath. His gaze locked on the car, taking Alphard away. The black cloud that hung over his head had yet to lift, but he knew that today was the day he could finally put revenge aside. No longer would memories of his brother bring only sorrow. This'll do. Won't it, Frank? Abruptly, Maria's cell phone rang in Stanley's pocket. That's right. I meant to give this back to you. He handed the phone to Maria. I wonder who's calling. Maria picked up. She could hardly believe it when she heard the voice on the line. Rescue, yet girlish, with a daredevil ring. A voice that had been burned into her mind since the day she met its owner. No, it can't be. She had been sure she'd never hear that voice again. In an instant, Maria's face was damp with tears of joy. Thank goodness. Oh, thank goodness. Kanan. Maria couldn't hold back her sobs. The tears kept coming and coming. She had never wept with joy like this in her life. Midnight 02. Achi held his breath. He could no longer feel the seconds ticking by. Oh, it's supposed to be the clock. Never mind. I thought it was a sudden change of time. So 2 seconds remaining. The numbers on the display were changing more and more slowly, but still he watched in fear. It was impossible not to fixate on the countdown. Kano and Achi continued to stare at the timer. It had stopped. The timer had actually stopped. We did it! Achi dropped to his knees with a cry of triumph. The rest of the Shibuya Scramble burst into cheers. You're one reckless guy, you know that? Kano kept his hand out. Achi grinned up at him. Ha! That makes 2 of us! The 2 clasped hands firmly, their handshake conveying more than any words could have. Achi! Oh, Achi! Susumu came rushing over. You did it, man. I knew you could do it. 2 bumped fists. It weren't just me, Achi said. Could never have done it without you guys' help. Susumu smiled bashfully. Hey, Susumu, take care of SOS for me. You got it. Susumu looked him squarely in the eye. Achi gave him a little nod, and the 2 solemnly bumped fists again. Suddenly, there was a blinding flash. Achi spun around to see Chiaki standing there, beaming happily, her digital camera ready for another shot. Hey everybody, gather up! Minoru called out to Achi and his pals. You guys are the heroes of Shibuya! Photo time, everybody, Chiaki said. Get ready! The young men struck a pose together. Wait, her too! Norikawa ushered Hitomi over to stand with Achi. Hitomi? Achi flashed her a sheepish grin. It was all thanks to Hitomi that he'd been able to do what he had done, keeping Shibuya safe, keeping his promise to Suzune. Hitomi had been his inspiration for it all. There were so many things he wanted to say, but he couldn't get the right words out. Achi, Hitomi's cheeks were damp with tears. Hey now, young lady, Minoru called. No crying now. Come on, show us a smile. He struck a goofy pose behind Chiaki. At last, the smile returned to Hitomi's face. He really is the best. Hitomi looked up at Achi in confusion. Your smile, he said. It's the best. I don't care what anybody else says. He smoked so earnestly that Hitomi couldn't help but smile even more. Okay, here we go, people. Get your best faces on. At Minorikawa's signal, everyone let out a joyous victory cry. Come on, guys, Susumu shouted. Let's lift Achi up where everyone can see him. The members of SOS let out another roar. Huh? No, you don't gotta do that, guys. Hey, cut it out. But Achi had already been swallowed by the enthusiastic throng. Heave ho! Heave ho! Heave ho! There in the middle of the scramble, Achi had been hailed as a hero. Kano looked on with a satisfied smile. What they had achieved together was nothing less than a miracle. It had taken a lot of luck and more than a few coincidences for them to stop the bomb. Coincidences? Kano muttered to himself. No, that wasn't right. This was something different altogether. Fate, that's what it was. And not just one person's fate. The destinies of several people had collided, gathering momentum until coincidence became inevitability, and Shibuya was saved. The raucous crowd tossed Achi high into the air again and again. As a plainclothes detective, Kano would probably never be showered with adulation quite like that. Well, that was all right. The detective's duty was to ensure the safety of the people. He didn't put his life on the line so that he could be a hero. Just seeing all those smiles, that was good enough for him. Kano only needed the approval of one person, and that was Rumi. Rumi. I hope she managed to get out of Shibuya okay. Suddenly worried, Kano pulled out her cell phone. There was a whole bunch of things he wanted to tell her. He couldn't share the whole story, Police rules wouldn't allow it, but he wanted to let her know as much as he could. That kidnapping case had been solved safely, for instance. That he'd learned about the tortured past of the detective he so admired. That his partner was going to pull through. That he'd managed to finally talk to her father. That he'd put his life on the line to save Shibuya from danger. Rumi would listen quietly to the very end, and then Kano thought he knew just what she'd say. Short and sweet, in that gentle voice of hers. Good job. Rumi, hello? There was no response. Did they have a bad connection? Hello? Rumi, are you there? Can you hear me? Look, the case is closed now. If you're still somewhere close to Shibuya, I'd love to see you again if I can. You want to see me, huh? Don't you have a mountain of paperwork you should be doing first? The gruff voice was Shizuo's. Well, you see, Father, I told you not to call me that. Shizuo barked so loudly over the phone that Kano's ear rang. Right, no, of course. And yes, I'll do my job. I just wanted to check and make sure that Rumi was alright. Looks like I misjudged you. Maybe you are the kind of girl who'll blow off work to go meet with a girl. Dad, hey! Kano heard Rumi's voice cry out with exasperation. Come on, let me have my phone! I know that work is important, sir, Kano said hurriedly. But Rumi is even more important to me. Felt his panic rising. After all that had happened, he didn't want Shizuo to end up with a bad impression. Oh, be quiet. If you want to see Rumi, you can do it once you finish your work. Well, but I'm not sure when that's going to be. I waited on you today, a lot longer than I wanted. So at this point, I don't care how long it takes you. We can wait all night if we have to. Shizuo let out a peculiar sigh. And then, you and I could talk again about you marrying my daughter. Huh? Before Kano could be sure he'd heard that right, Shizuo hung up. Huh? What? He stared at the phone, his mind reeling. And then he was hit with a veritable explosion of joy. Yes! Kano leapt into the air and shouted with delight, his voice echoing through the Shibuya streets. Once the crowd had put Achi back down on his feet, he rushed over to Hitomi. So, Hitomi? Yes? Hitomi, there's so much stuff I want to talk to you about. So many things I want to tell you. He gazed into her face. But, Suzune, he didn't know how to continue. Hitomi smiled warmly. She understood. Go on, Achi. Go see your sister. There's nobody here in trouble that you need to rescue now. Thank you. I better get going then. To see Suzune. Achi broke away from his circle of friends and headed out of the Shibuya Scramble. Strangely enough, his leg didn't hurt too much now. Despite all that had happened, he felt invigorated, as if he was just waking to a brand new day. Achi! Hitomi called after him. I'll see you again, won't I? Achi nodded vigorously. Of course! Just come to Shibuya. You'll find me. He'd been born and raised in Shibuya, but after today, he loved the place more than ever. That part is Tiggy Williams! I'm sorry. Holy shit. There's still a bunch of endings that I need, and there's a lot of trophies, so there's probably post-game? I don't know what there could be post-game of, though. But, like, the fucking Steam trophies shows that I have, like 8 or 9 left to go. So, like, I don't fucking know. The governor of Tokyo, special performance. Oh boy. Yukinori Katajima, I apologize. Good fucking job. Holy shit. This is great. I had to think. I didn't get all of the bad ends yet, so there's still that to do. And then there's that weird labyrinth. World doesn't change so easy. Noisy croak? Gordon and Alphard sat in the back seat as the car sped along the highway. Here. Gordon tossed the handcuff key onto the seat beside him. What happened down at the Scramble? Alphard asked, picking up the key and unlocking her cuffs. Leland Palmer was arrested by the Japanese police, and the bomb in the Detachi case was defused, apparently. Still, Palmer couldn't pose a problem once we got him into CIA custody. I see. Much obliged. You really got yourself backed into a corner, though, didn't you? Gordon said. Yeah. I was only able to accomplish half of what I intended. Half? Alphard produced a vial from her pocket. It was filled with red liquid. Is that Itomi's blood? Gordon asked. Indeed. I managed to acquire the antiviral. But when? Gordon peered at her in bewilderment. When I blew up the minivan. In the dim light of the vehicle, Alphard's eyes shone darkly, like those of a wounded animal. Extracting the blood from Hitomi while she was unconscious had been a simple matter. Saving the girl's life had been more than just a means of ensuring her trust. Alphard had been looking for the right moment to carry out the extraction. Total secrecy was essential. If it had become public knowledge that the drug existed and that some of it had been stolen, the value of the UA virus would plummet. Our primary objective here was to destroy that research facility. Still, getting our hands on the antiviral is better than nothing. Well done as always, Alphard. Kanan. I got a black bookmark? Okay. Yay? Whoa!
パスコードが変えられている。
解放戦線を裏切ったのか。
目的となる貨物車両を3秒に。警報は解除したんじゃないのか。
定か、そちらの進行は。
潜入経路に問題はない。みんな黙らせていいんだよ。
彼女の専門は暗号を破る。
それ以外に理由はない。
待て。
渋谷の文字はお前とは相性が悪いみたいだ。
What? Does this game just come with a free anime? Or maybe a fucking voiced manga, more like. But still, what the fuck? What the fuck was that? Bonus content added to the title screen. Previews added to the bonus content. Kanon preview added to bonus content. 428 pop quiz added to bonus content. Not right now. Not yet. Ah, there's a black bookmark. The story never truly ends. Alright, so it said I had like 79. Oh shit, I'm back at the start. Failed plan. I stopped counting the time. Alright, so... Bioterrorism incident. Well... Let me figure something out here real quick. No, that's Kana. Oh shit, it's telling me! Oh fuck, it's telling me! Hell yeah! Okay. So I have everything in Kano. I'm missing 3 for Achi. How am I missing 3 for Achi? I'm missing 1 for Tateno, and then I'm missing 2 for Jack. Okay. Okay. So I'm missing 76. What the fuck could this be? Kano ran for Achi anyway. Like, I know that has to be bad. Gonna go for all the bad endings. Also, I got an achievement called the Final Curtain, by the way, in case anyone was curious. I'm sorry, Suzune. Looks like I won't be able to keep visiting you in the hospital anymore. You'll forgive me, though, right? I stuck to it through the end, just like you told me to. Didn't call it quits partway through. And so whatever you do, you can't let this disease beat you. Don't you dare let it beat you. Watch do a deep breath as he finished his solitary last prayer. Couldn't have more than a few seconds left to go. A firm hand grabbed hold of Achi's shoulder. Let go of the case now! It was Kano. What the hell are you doing, man? Why'd you come back here? Just come with me. We have to get out of here. Kano's grip didn't let up in the slightest. Look, you need to run, Achi shouted. I can't move. He clenched his jaw in frustration. It was all too crazy for him to think straight. They couldn't even be having this argument when the bomb could explode at any moment. They shouldn't even be having this. Oh, you gotta be kidding me! Kano growled in frustration. Okay, you can't move on your own, so I'm gonna help you move, and unless you want to kill me too, you better cooperate. They didn't have much time left. Damn it! Don't be a fool, man! Hachi couldn't help but curse. A sharp pain shot through his limp right leg as he lurched to his feet. Kano shouted in his ear, "Come on, run!" Hachi didn't have the luxury of thinking anymore. He just had to move his feet. Hitomi cried out from across the scramble. Hachi! As the explosion tore through him, he was glad that her voice was the last thing in this world he'd ever